Hey everyone, it is your writing coach, Kathy Mazak, and I am going to talk to you today about 5 things that you can do to kind of keep your writing going in this particular historical moment of crisis. So I want to start out by saying I feel like the academic community, which of course I'm very much in touch with, has been hit particularly hard because of the shutting down of universities. And where I want to emphasize is if a university says, go put all your classes online one day to the next, there's so much stress on you and also so much stress on any personnel who are related to online teaching and learning. And everything feels like at the swish of a wand, we can just leave our in-presence lives and hole up, but yet deliver the same level of academic work in the same, to the same caliber, I guess, from home. And the underarching thing I want to emphasize is that is not how we should be thinking about this. We should be thinking about this particular time as a crisis, and our response needs to be one that is attuned to crisis, not as like, oh, we're just going to continue. I'm just going to be able to replicate what I was doing before from my home or whatever. So I'm hoping that I'm going to give you 5 really, useful things that will help you keep your writing going during this time. There's so many things to talk about, and I will be talking more about other aspects of how the coronavirus has been affecting academia and academics. But of course, I'm a writing coach at my heart. And so I want to first just talk about writing. So 5 things. Are you ready? Here's thing number 1. It's totally predictable. So tip number 1 to keep your writing going, even during this coronavirus outbreak, is to go back to basics with your Tiger Time. So if you don't know what Tiger Time is, it is my signature method for getting your writing done. You can see episode 2 of my podcast for all the details, or Google Tiger Time Kathy Mazak, and you will get my blog posts about this. But basically, the idea is that instead of trying to write every day or maintain a certain number of hours, or the other thing we do, which is we won't write at all, and then we'll have a binge day and write, but something happens to derail the binge day. All of that is not a useful approach to writing. Instead, what we want to do is focus on writing during our most energetic, best times of day. And that's what we call your Tiger Time, the time that you can take over the world. So in terms of responding to crisis or keeping your writing going throughout this time of crisis without, I know what we all want to do is I don't know, what I want to do is put my head under the pillow and ignore the world for a while, but we probably not the best reaction. You want to go back to basics with your Tiger Time. So let's say you were going along in the semester and you were doing 2 hours of Tiger Time writing 3 days a week, and you had this pattern going and it was going great. And then coronavirus comes up, threats of, the university closing, your trip to your conference has been derailed. And so all of a sudden we are in literally a state of emergency. And so our normal habits and practices get derailed. So what I want you to do is go back to basics with Tiger Time. And back to basics with Tiger Time means 1 to 2 hours a week. That's it. So 1 to 2 hours during your Tiger Time, 1 to 2 times a week. Okay. So if all you do is 1 hour of writing during your Tiger Time throughout this crisis, that's fantastic. That's keeping your writing as a touch point. And it'll be more productive than you worrying about your writing. Because remember, the other important thing about Tiger Time is that we decide when we're going to write and we decide when we're not going to write. So if what you're doing right now is freaking out about everything, which we all are, so just want to acknowledge that, freaking out about everything, and so basically also freaking out about the fact you're not getting your writing done, this is how to get through that. 1 hour a week during your tiger time, just to start out. Then you can go up to 2 hours. Then you can go up to 3, and leave it right there if you want. So tip number 1 is get back to basics with your tiger time. Tip number 2 is resist the urge to let your teaching completely take over everything. So right now, the messaging that we're getting from many of us are getting from universities, not everybody, but many of us are getting the message like, get ready to go online. And there's been a lot of great posts by other people who are, experts in online teaching and learning that have been floating around. I've been trying to share them into the I Should Be Writing Facebook group, but really we might be reacting to those messages from our administration like, oh, that means that I have to basically recreate the second half of my semester. I have to recreate it exactly as it is, except delivered in an online medium. And that's not what you have to do. Okay. What you have to do is a stopgap measures. Where we are right now is minimum viable semester. So in the business world, we have a term MVP, which in the business means minimum viable product. And what I'm saying is that right now you need to be in minimum viable semester mode. And what that means, you can say minimum viable course. So think about your courses. And I will tell you where this comes from. So this comes from me having lived through and us having lived through Hurricane Maria. So what happened during Hurricane Maria was that we were, maybe 4 weeks into our semester, 5 weeks into our semester. And Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico. And what we had to do was basically we stopped classes for a month, maybe a little more than a month, because there was no power, And then when we went back to the university, there was still there was power and water at the university, but we had no library. Our library had been flooded and was closed for a year. Our students didn't have access to power, not access to internet. Forget the internet. They didn't have lights in their homes. They didn't have water in their homes. And that means that eating is way harder because you can't keep things cold without ice. So there was this, everything we did was much more difficult. And for students especially, everything they had to do was much more difficult. How to bathe without, without water at home, how to do your assignments when you can't plug in your laptop and you don't have internet. So what I did that semester was really just say, okay, I was teaching research methods for master's level English education majors. And I was like, okay, what do they absolutely have to do to be able to say that they have completed this course? Not to do it the way I usually do it, to do it the minimum viable semester way. And we pulled way back on the number of assignments. We changed the way we turned in assignments. We did a lot of work in class together because it was the only place that we had consistent power and internet. And so we really made a lot of changes. And that's how I want you to think about taking your courses online. Minimum viable semester. Okay. So if you want, you can create, you can be spending so much time moving your classes online. And instead, I think what everyone who is being logical right now is thinking is we're moving online not to recreate exactly what our students would have gotten in in-person classes, but instead to complete the requirements of the courses so that students can get a grade and move on. And we can complete the work, but you get to decide exactly how that work is. So you could spend a lot of time letting it take over everything, And maybe that's what you want to do. And I would respect that as a choice, actually, if you decided, okay, well, I'm just going to focus on teaching for the rest of the semester and I'll pick up with my writing later. I actually think that depending on where you are in your career and everything is a viable, I understand that, I would say. But if you want to keep your writing going, you really need to embrace this idea of minimum viable semester and keep, trying to get your 1 or 2 hours of Tiger Time in a week. And don't let this crazy push, you will all of a sudden be experts in online teaching right now, tomorrow, no, we can't actually do that. So that was tip number 2, was resist the urge to let teaching take over. And I will just add to that, this is not the time for teaching excellence. This is not the time to create the most amazing online experience for your students. They don't have the energy for it, and you don't have the energy for it. It is a time for a stopgap measure that's going to let us complete the semester, not recreate exactly what we would have done in ideal circumstances. Okay, tip 3. So a lot of us are feeling anxiety around the situation with the outbreaks, around, concern for our communities, for our loved ones, for ourselves, for vulnerable populations, for our healthcare system. There's a lot that's probably causing us anxiety. And that anxiety can derail us from productive thought, and it takes up a huge amount of brain space. So tip number 3 is to try to curb your anxiety around this situation in order to give room to your writing. And so much easier said than done, but I'm going to give you a few tips. Okay. So in order to kind of check anxiety to let your writing happen, what you want to do is make sure that if it's possible, that you write before checking social media, checking email, hearing the news, even maybe right before seeing a colleague in the hallway and debriefing what happened yesterday. So again, I teach this Tiger Time method, which is about using your most energetic times. Sometimes though, and you have to decide this for yourself, sometimes it's not, your Tiger Time is maybe later in the day, and a lot of things have happened so that in the world that cause a lot of anxiety, so that by the time you sit down to do your Tiger Time writing, you're derailed, emotionally derailed. So I want you to, if that's happening to you, then tip number 3 is to curb that anxiety by getting writing done before you consume media. Or interact with colleagues or anything. So even if it's just half an hour or 45 minutes of writing, getting that done before the rest of the day kind of takes over. So resisting checking social media first thing in the morning. And I am speaking to myself right now. Resisting checking social first thing in the morning. Resisting turning on the radio or the news first thing in the morning. Instead, try to very deliberately have a quiet morning. Get your kids to school if that's what you have to do. Get yourself to work, whether it's at home or at the university, and do some writing. Don't make it hours and hours. Just do minimum viable, right? And then go on with your day. So trying to curb anxiety by not consuming other people's anxiety before you write, okay? Because remember, these are 5 tips to keeping your writing practice going, even in these troubled times, anxiety producing times for sure. All right, number 4. So tip number 4, I'm going to specifically address working from home. So this is it's not exactly a tip, but it's basically the idea that working from home is an adjustment. So let's just start with, let's imagine that your university has said classes are suspended. You have to do everything online. And let's just take that as the first thing I want to talk about later. And then I'm going to talk about working with family members at home. But a few things I just want to share with you about what I've learned from working from home. So as some of you know, and I've said before, this year I'm on a unpaid leave of absence from my academic job in order to build my academic coaching business and deliver my wonderful programs and be with all of you. So I have been working from home all this year. So since July, I guess. And it is an adjustment because when you go to a place to work, so when you leave your house and you go to the university, you are there for a certain number of hours. And that makes you think that you did productive work for the 8 hours or 9 hours that you were on campus, but you didn't. Okay. And when you're home, you actually can be way more productive in less time. And what it feels like sometimes is like, oh, I'm not working enough, because you just haven't figured out yet that like how to use your energy, how to craft a day when you have like, you don't have to build in your 15 minutes to walk to class and 15 minutes to get back. You get back that time. Okay, I'm going to get kid bombed. So hi, baby. Okay, so some things that you can do in order to make an adjustment to working at home is to create structure and routine for yourself. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing is, do not expect that you will sit at your desk in your home for 8 hours. You shouldn't. Like the beauty of working from home is that you don't have to do that. You can use your best hours of the day, right? Nobody's, you're not necessarily clocking in and clocking out at a certain time. People aren't necessarily like, why isn't she in her office at 8:30? So you might have scheduled events, right? Like you might have to give class online at a certain time, live on Zoom or whatever, but it's much, much, much more flexible. So you want to create a little structure for yourself, and you want to do a lot of standing up and walking around. So one thing, I want to pass on something that I can't remember the woman who did this. It was 20 years ago. But my husband went to this workshop and picked up this tip from somebody, and that was to work in units. It's kind of like Pomodoros, but it's a little different. And the idea is that you work for 45 minutes and then you rest and take a break for 15. And what I liked about that was, first of all, it makes you stand up and everything, but also you should, like what the workshop leader said was, you can only do about 6 of those a day. Like 6, maybe 8, but more units than that. That's called a unit. She would call it a unit. You can't do more than that. And what I would like to say is that in this particular high anxiety time, you probably could only do 4 of those, especially if you're getting adjusted to working at home. And so 4 hours of actual, like I'm sitting down doing work, and 15 minutes of that hour is a break. So you need to readjust, and I can talk more about this in another video, but you have to kind of reset your expectations, but also realize that you probably can get way more done in way less time from home, and you should actually feel good about that. Okay, not bad. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. No, you need to build in rest. Number 4B is what happens if your kids are also off, or you have other family members who are off, and so you're working with family members at home. So again, I just want you to change your expectations around this. I want you to think about like, you cannot work at home the same way that you work at work. And you really can't work at home the same way you work at work with kids around. I've been doing it all week because both of us have been sick and she's been home. And yesterday I had a coaching call with one of my clients in the Amplify program. Thankfully, she's also a mom of littles. And this one I had to mute and just listen to my client and unmute to talk because she was absolutely screaming and freaking out. And I probably should have canceled that call and rescheduled, but I didn't. So that was a choice I made in the moment. And she ended up like sitting on my lap and falling asleep. Then I had a productive couple hours while she napped. But you just can't, like, universities seem to be saying, like, again, like the administration or universities seem to be saying, like, you just can pick up everything and just do it from your home, to professors and students. And that is extremely unfair. You can't, like, particularly if you've got little ones at home. So whereas, like, so I would say what you want to change your mindset about is, can you do like 4 hours of work, power hours almost, right? Like during the day, so 4 hours, like you can put the kid to watch something or come up with a new game or something to like distract for 4 hours. They're not going to be 4 hours in a row though. So you have to really shift your expectation around what you can accomplish at home, and universities have to as well. It's a huge ask to ask not just professors, but students as well to say like, no, I'm all doing everything online. It's like, that's not how this works. Like that's not how it works. It's a huge ask. It's a ton of labor. And so you have to adjust. You can't expect to, and the university cannot expect you to be as effective and productive if you're at home with your children working while they're there as you would be if your kids are at school and you are in your office. So number 4 is understand that working from home is absolutely an adjustment. All right. The 5th tip for keeping your writing going during this time of crisis is, of course, to be gentle on yourself. You have less brain space right now because you, just like everyone around the world, is worrying about this. So, you don't have as much space to do deep work. You don't have as much space to get writing done. You don't have as much space to grade. And so all of that needs to be dialed way, way, way back. And so you need to be gentle on yourself. Danielle, thank you. Yes, I think 4 power hours split up over the course of the day. Try that. Like, start there. I mean, actually start with 2 or 3 and see if you can increase it. It's new. And that's the be gentle part too. Like, all of this is new. We haven't had a pandemic like this, right? Really in over 100 years. So we are reacting, and as you know, in the news and everything, and with your universities, like, things are changing day by day. We're reacting and trying to, all of us who are worried are like trying to do things day by day differently. We need to be super gentle. It's a very, very stressful time. So a lot of your brain space, and people, like, everybody's I'm in a funk. A lot of people are in like a weird funk, and like, why do I feel so weird? It's because you're worried about the world. So, and I can't tell you to not worry, because it's a real thing. And worry it's not so hard to like shrug off. So be gentle on yourself. You have less brain space. What you want to strive for is forward movement, is that, you don't get so overrun by anxiety that the coronavirus is all you think about and you paralyze everything. But at the same time, you cannot expect yourself to move forward with the same speed and agility that you would have if we were not having a global pandemic, right? So be gentle on yourself and think about, how you can be extra thoughtful, how you can build in extra rest. I absolutely think it is time to binge watch a series. I'm going to recommend some. I love a historical drama. So I watched, Outlander, of course, I'm watching. If you've never watched Outlander, start from the beginning, watch all the Outlander episodes, and you can skip the torture episode in season 1. Just fast forward through it. And then, and also I just watched Islands at War, which is the same guy from Outlander, much younger, about the Channel Islands in World War II. That was a 6-hour series. My parents were here for a visit, and we watched that together. I just arrived to me some I can't remember the author's name. Quinn is her last name. But anyway, the I think it's called the Daughters of Rome or Empress of Rome series. So it's like a juicy, a little bit romancy historical fiction. I'm going to be reading that. So take extra measures to make sure that your brain is off of coronavirus sometimes, because if your usual way to chill is like going on social and scrolling, that's not going to work anymore. You have to do something different. And because I definitely am like a person who like loves to go on social media and just scroll around. But this is not the time for that if what you're trying to do is calm yourself down. So those are my 5 tips for writing through this global pandemic. I would love to hear any questions that you have because I will be doing more live videos about this. I'm planning a bonus podcast episode. I need to refine this a little bit more for that. And please feel free to share this video. If you're watching this video inside the I Should Be Writing Facebook group, you need to click through to my page in order to be able to share it out. And if you're not watching this inside I Should Be Writing, get on over into I Should Be Writing, because we are having constructive conversations about keeping our writing going. We're continuing to encourage each other. We're continuing to build community and reach out. And if there's ever a time that we needed kind of online communities, it's probably now. So thank you, everyone. Emily, thank you. Danielle, thanks for coming. Sylvia and Uta and Heather, thank you so much. Uta, I'm wondering how things are in Germany. Barbara, thank you for coming. Reshmi, hi. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. I'm here for you. I'll see you in the I Should Be Writing group. Take care, everybody. Bye.